My name is Ginzberg'S and I am a student. So right now I am, if you can see laptop and some of books in front of me, but I am doing my homework actually. So I am reading this book for my assignment actually. So when I'm reading of this book, I am reading about a career theory in career counseling actually. The theory in this book actually is kind of interesting. You know what? Because I am reading about theory of Ginzberg'S theory in career decision making actually. So today I am going to share with you what I am understand about this. So but must be you guys curious why I'm doing this, right? So because I am too boring actually to know this theory on my own self. So but I am going to share with you what I understand about this story actually, but from my own view, whether it's right or wrong, you can decide it on yourself. So we're going to talk about Ginzberg's theory, okay? So in here it stated that Ginzberg developed this theory of career choice and development of career decision in a holistic process. So by that, this theory I mean, Ginzberg theory was based on the rational and conscious action of an individual. So by that, Ginzberg believed that occupational that we will work in the future. I mean, for the future student that kind of studying right now and going to have work in the future actually based on chosen through the lifelong stages actually. So and actually this story is actually one of the earliest significant contribution to the lifespan theory actually. So it's kind of interesting, you know. You can connect why you been like that, right? So I'm going to share with you guys. So let's check it out.
Ginzberg career development. Ginzberg stated there are three stages in the career development. The first stage is fantasy stage. The second stage is known as the tentative stage. In the tentative stage, there are four substages. There are interest, capacity, values, and the transition. And the third stage is the realistic stage. There are three substages in this stage. There are the exploration, crystallization, and the specification. Other than that, we also add the Ginzberg optimization. In the Ginzberg optimization, we had explained about the early assumption of the occupational decision-making process of the adolescent and the early adulthood. Fantasy stage. The first stage is known as the fantasy stage. The fantasy stage is occurred during the childhood stage. During this stage, the children primarily engage in playful acts by stimulating occupation, such as they were stimulating the duties of the police officer. This occupation stimulation would reflect the initial preferences for certain type of activities. Ginsberg believed that children transition from playful imitation to work imitation is near the end of this stage. For example, the children who wearing the costume and acting out the duties of a realistic stage. The third stage is the realistic stage. This stage will start from age 17 to young adult. In this stage, there is further integration of perceived abilities and occupational interests. During this stage, the person establishes alternative paths in his or her work life, or is known as a backup plan. Throughout these three sub-stages in the realistic stage, he or she will develop personal values and begin to zero in his or her optimal career choice. The first substage of the realistic stage is the exploration. During this substage, the individual chooses his or her career path, but they remain open to other opportunities. The next substage is known as crystallization. Crystallization occurs when he or she becomes more engrossed in a particular career, committing to one direction more than she ever has. The third substage is known as specification. The specification occurs when he or she commits to develop a preference for a specific area of his or her occupation. According to Ginzberg in 1984, he re-emphasized that the career development is a lifelong process for those who seek to attain a major job satisfaction. As tentative stage, the second stage is called tentative stage. This stage is divided into four substages. There are interest, capacity, values, and transition. This stage will start from age 11 to 17 years old. The adolescent children or the teenagers are able to better focus and recognize the work requirement. During this stage, the individual become more aware of work requirement and their own abilities and values, and they can make decisions regarding vocational like and dislike. There are four substages in this period. The first substage is the interest, where the children or the teenagers learn about their like and their dislike. The second substage is the capacity, where the children or the teenagers learn how much their ability aligns with their interests. The third stage is the values. We could see the teenagers at 15 years old aware of how work may fulfill their values. And the final substage of this period is called transition. This This transition begins when the individual assumes responsibility of their own action and it becomes independent and exercises for her freedom of her choice. Ginzberg optimization. Eventually, Ginzberg appeared his early assumption that the occupational decision-making process was limited to adolescence and early adulthood, accounting for mid-life crisis, changes in career, or after retirement occupation changes. Therefore, the occupational decision process extends throughout an entire life.